I want to tell you why I think it's important to get treatments before you're broken. And I am not talking about preventative medicine, which is the typical thing that gets discussed, which has its own importance. But I want to talk about two things that are super, super important. One of them is the patterns that are imprinted in your body from the time you were in utero right through to now, which are things that can be accessed and worked on and released or made more comfortable so that there's better healthy functioning in your body, in your musculoskeletal system, your nervous system, your organs. That is one thing. The other thing is about thriving and the feeling of wellness that is coming to the fullness of our capacity that is unique to each one of us, that has a different quality to it because we are each individuals, and how going for a treatment, the right kind of treatment, the type of work that I do, where when I see someone who doesn't actually have a major issue, where I can do that work, which is more about like, okay, you're pretty well. All right, let's see what some of the strains are. And now let's actually work on taking you from this feeling of wellness to a bigger feeling of wellness, to what maybe you haven't even experienced before, which is all about filling you up with the best of who you are, the best of your capacity. And that's so my passion. And it's so rarely what I get to do, because therapy, treatments, I'm an osteopath by training and a craniosacral therapist by training and a yoga teacher. Treatments are considered to be the things that you do when you're broken. And you do treatments when you're broken. But healing is for when you are well as well, not just to prevent more strains, more problems, fix things before they happen. Sure, that's really a great idea. But think about where you're at right now. And for most of us, we live in a mixed state of wellness and stress. For most of us, we're dipping in and out of like, yeah, I feel okay, I feel good now, I feel happy, I feel alive, and oh shit, I feel terrible and I'm stressed. And what I'm talking about now is building your inner capacity where you just start to have more wellness and more wellness and more wellness, and that becomes a more stable, not permanent because there's always flux, but a more stable state that you're more topped up. And when you're more topped up, when you're more resilient, when you're more alive and energized, you have so much more capacity to deal with the inevitable hard things that come along. But it is not just about dealing with the inevitable hard things that come along. It is about the richness of feeling fully settled and at home in your own being, so that the life that you live is really delightful. And the things that you choose to do day to day are made with you feeling more connected and at peace and happy, instead of choosing from a place of your tank being on empty, you being strained, you doing what you feel like you should do. I want to talk a little bit about the other piece, which are the strains that we have right from the get-go. And this is something that's I just want to bring up to the surface, because it's not really talked about very much in therapy, but it's very, very real. It's talked about a bit in terms of fascia and the imprints. I've got a dog yawning beside me. The imprints that are made that run through the fascial system. And from the moment that you are big enough in your mother's uterus to have to find a position one side or the other, your body will have started to accumulate little strains. And that often is based on how your mother's posture was and what her strains were, and where you kind of had to fit, and where your little tiny baby body was more comfortable within her uterus. And then through the birth process, more strains happen, because babies typically find themselves a little bit before birth and during birth to have their head or their shoulders having to press a little bit more in one spot or the other, and a bit of an imprint is made in the tissues. It could be in the soft tissues, it could be in cartilaginous tissue, different types of tissue. It could also be the way in which the nervous system is responding as a baby to a certain situation, and whether or not that baby, that infant part of you, was able to then re-regulate, because the baby can't typically do that so easily themselves. They're basing it on their environment around them. So many things get laid down really, really early on and can be treated really early on. Then as we go through our early years, the movement patterns that we adopt, the injuries that we have, the bones that we break, all these things just lay down these patterns. And then the work that I do, and I put my hands on, and I feel just like it's like a river, and it's a river of physiology, and it also has a feeling of energy to it, the fullness, which perhaps is chi, that I can feel, that many other therapists can also feel, of the way that your body and the strains in your body and the patterns in your body are held, but also, super important, how well you are. Wellness has a felt quality to it, a feeling of expansiveness, a feeling of flow in the movement that is expressed through the body and the subtle patterns of movement. So, I think that's what I have to say about receiving treatments. Hopefully food for thought.